I want to make a point here, and oftentimes we hear in Montana, we hear in western states, by God, states ought to just take over this land. It's high time that we show the federal government that we can do a much better job. And oftentimes land use managers look at the Department of Natural Resources in Montana. They show that we harvest more timber, that our forest is in better shape. And so on that basis, maybe that land ought to be transferred to the state. And people say, yeah, boy, they come to a meeting and they're all shouting and standing on top of a barrel. And then you say, well, we actually charge $15 per acre and we have competitive bidding on federal grazing. And then you lose a stockman because they say, well, we only pay $1.40 and two. Hell, we don't want state charging the actual value. And then you get the minerals guys, and when they want to lease property from the state of Montana to develop the metals, we say, well, we're going to have X amount of royalty. And this, what? Hell, our neighbor over there, he says, just come get it. So, you know, I'm as guilty as anybody in politics. You know, kind of talk out of both sides of our mouth. But the bottom line is, if you transfer these assets back to the states, those who are actively managing those minerals, grazing cattle, harvesting the timber, they'll pay more. And as we heard in Oregon, many of these lands that would be transferred to us because of the way they've been managed for the last 100 years, well, they're going to cost us a hell of a lot of money to clean them up during the next 50. So I'm not so sure I would want all that land back right now. And even though we say that we do, many of us, I'm not so sure we want it back so quick. I'm not so sure that I could turn a profit on a lot of this timberland that's been managed by the Forest Service for the last 100 years. And the last point I want to make is this. For the last 20 years, those of us who are in politics or in management of those lands, we've bemoaned the fact that we've not actively managed our timberland. And now we found ourselves in a position that we've got old timberland and it's dying of pine beetle, and gosh, if we just would have been actively harvesting that timberland over the course of the last 20 or 30 years, we'd be in a lot better shape. Really? Because Congress has been complaining for the last 20 or 30 years that British Columbia has been dumping all that softwood on the market. And they have been harvesting their timber at faster than the rate of replacement. Outrageous. And yet, British Columbia today has more pine beetle death than we do in Montana. So they've actively managed, some have said overactively managed their timber, and yet they ended up in the same place. So it seems as though what has happened is a native species, the pine beetle, and a native species, the pine tree, for some reasons that are maybe even beyond control of the active managers on the ground, we are at a historic time of pine beetle killing pine trees. And I think the example of British Columbia and Montana side by side probably demonstrates it better than anything, where, again, they were accused for many, many years of harvesting their timber at a faster rate than it's growing. Not sustainable. Outrageous to a lot of land managers. And yet, their incidence of pine beetle kill is greater than we have in Montana. We need somebody to explain it.